Hello everyone, I'm Bo from Brutal Commentary, and today I'm going to be breaking down our next matchup for UFC 321. In this matchup, we have Ikram Aliskerov taking on Jun Yong Park. Aliskerov is 16-2 as a professional, 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Meanwhile, Park is 19-6 as a professional, as well as 4-1 in his last 5 fights. Looking at Aliskerov, he's currently 3-1 in the UFC, destroyed Phil Haas at UFC 288, destroyed Wale Alves at UFC 294, then most recently suffered his first UFC loss last June to Robert Whittaker, but it's Whittaker. Very rarely do you see any other middleweights who aren't champions beat that guy. Then most recently, this April, he defeated Andre Muniz via first round TKO. Meanwhile, Park was on a pretty good win streak. 3 fights, 3 finishes, most recently submitting Denis Tululin and Albert Duraev, then suffered a loss to Andre Muniz via split decision, which I did think Park won that fight, and I kind of thought it was bullshit, but is what it is. Now currently riding a 2-fight win streak, defeating Brad Tavares last October, and then most recently defeated Ismail Nardiev this June, which I gotta say, Park put on an impressive performance in that fight, especially after getting blatantly, illegally kneed in the head. So, I gotta say, I was very impressed by Park being able to come back after that and just keep on fighting, and eventually just win the decision. So, this is gonna be, I would say, the best test for Aliskerov. Because you notice in all of Aliskerov's fights, he's actually never gone past the first round. The Phil Haas fight was in the first round. Alves, first round. Whittaker lost, first round. Then most recently in the Muniz fight, first round. Now, granted, the Muniz fight was a few seconds away from the ending in the first round, but still, all 4 of his UFC fights have ended in the first round. Even his Contender Series fight, which he won via Kimura, was in the first round. So it'll be an interesting test to see if what Aliskerov looks like past the 5-minute mark, as it's a bit of an unknown, really, if he has the cardio to go 3 rounds. And that's where a lot of the intrigue comes in for Jun Yong Park, who not only has gone to decision plenty of times in his career, but also is a good momentum fighter. And what I mean by that is, maybe in the first round he doesn't start off great, but then as the fight goes on, his high volume, low power approach starts to overwhelm opponents. Park has really good boxing, and as I just said, he has a high volume, low output, output approach, where he may not fire with the most amount of power in the world, but constantly getting hit in the face with his persistent jab, his 1-2 up down the middle, and even adding in his leg kicks. It can be very not only frustrating, but eventually overwhelm fighters, especially if you're trying to just swing for the bleachers and get Park out of there and you mismanage your cardio. You can be very tired by the latter half of round 2 onward into the 3rd round. And eventually Park can just turn up the volume and pressure and eventually finish off his opponents. He's also got some deceptive grappling. He was able to handle Andre Muniz on the ground for a majority of that fight. Even got mounted in that fight too, against, on paper, a vastly superior grappler, and was able to out-grapple Brad Tavares in a good portion of their fight. Tavares hurt Park in that fight. My apologies. But, so Park has really good submission, specifically his rear naked choke from the back. He's pretty good at that. Even able to get the choke with no hooks in. He's deceptively good at that. Kind of like that bulldog choke, but it is a rear naked choke, just without the hooks. Now, Aliskerov has a Sambo background, and he uses it to great effect, whether it be defending the takedowns or using his own wrestling / submission. As I said, he's either the first fighter or the only fighter to win via Kimura on Contender Series. I unfortunately don't have that in front of me, but I know he was one of the first to actually win via Kimura. But kind of interesting, as of late, he's very rarely actually used his wrestling. He's mostly just been a striker. Now Aliskerov striking can be awkward at times, but he carries a lot of power and has proven to be a great first round fighter. Whether it was that pinpoint accurate jab cross to Phil Hawes, the flying knee to Alves, or that kind of check left hook he threw at Muniz. What was kind of interesting about that hook is, too, he didn't throw with the most amount of power I've seen from him and kind of just barely touched the temple. But he must carry a lot of more power than I'm thinking of because he barely touched Muniz and, he had him doing the chicken dance. That being said, it was literally the same punch Edmund Shabazian landed on Muniz, and again, that had Muniz going down bad. So I think it mostly is like Muniz is just doesn't have a great chin. There's also something you got to realize too is at least in the UFC, Andre Muniz is the best opponent that Aliskerov has defeated, while Park has, in my opinion, beaten better fighters, and I thought he should have won against Muniz. But, at the end of the day, styles make fights, and MMA math 90% of the time is bullshit. Looking at how these two are going to pair up is going to be testy in the first round for Park because Aliskerov often fights like he shot out of a cannon in the first round. Now, he can be measured in his approach and take his time. As you saw with the Alves fight, he didn't rush in hunting for the finish. He took his time, and then when he dropped Alves with a jab, then he put on the pressure. Then he started hunting for the finish. And, the sequence is the flying knee to punches and bunches leading towards the TKO. So it's not like Aliskerov is like a round or bust. I really don't know if he is because, like I said, he has not left the first round. But I do know that Park oftentimes mixes in his wrestling and striking very well. I don't know if he's going to be able to take down Aliskerov. You have to understand, this is the only fighter to defend all of Khamzat Chimaev's takedowns when they fought back way years ago in the regional scene. Now, of course, if they fought now, I don't know. I'm sure Khamzat could take him down, but it basically is saying that Aliskerov's defensive wrestling and offensive wrestling is going to be very potent in this fight. So I don't know if Park is going to be able to take down Aliskerov. While this plays out on the feet, like I said, it's going to be testy. Park has taken a lot of damage. Like you think of the war he had with Gregory Rodriguez or the nip and tuck affair he had with Brad Tavares, which was more or less kind of a war. I mean, not as much as the Rodriguez fight, but they did hurt each other, and Tavares dropped Park with 1-2. So there is some concern about the chin of the Iron Turtle. I'll say that right now. It's going to be... I've kind of struggled with this fight a bit because besides the unknown of how is Aliskerov after the first round, I really got to wonder how well Park will be able to deal with Aliskerov in the first round, as well as how he'll be able to deal with Aliskerov possibly mixing it up. Like I said, Aliskerov has mostly been a striker for all of his UFC fights, but I feel like if he was able to mix up the striking and wrestling pretty well, I think he's going to be able to stifle a lot of Park's offense. That being said, Jung Sun Park is a great test for a lot of unranked fighters at middleweight and often a pretty good sign of whether they should fight towards the rankings or either need a bit more time to cook or get better. You know what I mean? Park is that perfect test to say, like, oh man, you beat this guy, it's off the rankings or like top 20 of the division. If you lose against him, you're either A, just simply not good enough to beat the upper echelon, or okay, you had some moments against him, just need to refine your tool set a bit, refine your tools ever so slightly. That being said, I don't like these odds whatsoever. Minus 258 for Aliskerov. Minus 258 for Aliskerov, plus 210 for Park. I feel like this fight's a lot closer than that. I don't know if Aliskerov should be a 2-1 favorite over Park. That being said, in the last two cards, the South Korean fighters have not been looking good. Ju Sang-yu lost to Daniel Santos after winning the first round. And then, most recently, Jung Sun Park kind of got exposed by Bruno Silva. So there is some worry about that. But overall, I got to go with Ikram Aliskerov. I think he just has a little bit too much momentum for me to ignore, and he's just so dangerous in the first round. I don't know if Park is going to be able to more or less survive or be able to take that damage well. And even if this does go past the first round, I think Aliskerov will rack up so much damage in the first round that he'll be able to finish Park in the later stages. So my official prediction, I got to go with Ikram Aliskerov, and I got to go with him via TKO. I think he's going to hurt Park a lot in the first round and possibly lead towards a late first round finish, if not an early second round finish. So once again, my official prediction, I got to go with Ikram Aliskerov. I'm going to pick him via TKO. But with that being said, that's been my prediction for this fight. If you liked the video, comment to subscribe. Let me know what you think of this fight. Do you think Park is possibly a good underdog to bet on? If so, I'd like to hear why. If you think, or do you think Aliskerov is going to be able to get past the Iron Turtle? Oh, but next up, we will have our feature prelim, Nasrat Haqparast taking on Quinlan Salkild. But until then, I've been Bo from Brutal Commentary. Thank you all for listening. Take care.